Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of Science from My Kitchen. This week's episode is called Fireworks in a Jar. I'm excited for this lesson. I hope you are too. Today all you're going to need is some water, some oil. I'm using canola oil. You can use olive oil, baby oil, whatever kind of oil you want, an empty jar, something to measure and pour with, and some food coloring. So why don't you grab your materials and you can follow along. All right guys, let's get started with this experiment. So to start with, I'm going to pour 3 cups of water. So I measured 3 cups into another jar. And I'm going to pour them into this one. So 3 cups of water. You need to do 3 to 1. So if you don't have this big of a jar or you're using just a cup, which is totally fine as well, just whatever you do, make sure you do 3 parts water to 1 part oil. So now I'm going to take the oil and I'm going to put a cup of oil into here. There's our cup of oil. Sorry for the loud noise if you can hear that. I am currently doing some dishes. Then we're going to take and drop some oil or some food coloring into the oil, however much you want. There's no real say on how much you need. So just put some in. You can see them all floating there. And then you need a fork, forgot to tell you that, or a small whisk. So you can either use a small whisk or a fork. And you're just going to mix that together. It's gonna take a minute. You gotta really get it so you can start seeing the color change. I'm gonna try this. If you use a big bowl, you could just use a regular whisk. But I need the small one for this cup. So you're gonna mix that up nice and good. All right, we can see now the oil has changed to blue. There's still some separation, that's okay. And we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start pouring it in. So this is gonna take this pretty much to the top of the jar. That's okay, and I'm gonna stop right there actually because it's a little too much. So if you watch now, it's gonna take it a second. You're gonna start to see the firework form in the jar. Let me turn it so you can see without the label there. There we go. It's gonna take it a minute, but it's gonna start to circulate and we'll start to see a firework like you see in the sky, how it kind of falls, form in the jar there. I can kind of start to see it starting. The water is a little cold, so it's not, you can see that blue down here starting to fall. We'll start to see some more as it goes. You can see that in that video that you just watched, like it's starting to turn the whole jar blue. It's still going a little bit. It kind of looks like as the fireworks fall and it fills the sky with smoke now, that's kind of what the jar looks like. This part is optional. You don't have to do this, but this was an optional part in this experiment, and that is to take some cold and flu relief tablets. You can just use cold or flu, it doesn't matter, or even just an Alka-Seltzer tablet, and you drop it in the jar for just some added effect fun there. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop these in and we will watch what happens. There you go. You can see it's happening in the back corner here. Let me turn it for you. It is causing that to bubble back up, and I'll show you a top view here. It's creating some bubbles in there. Pretty cool. looks like it's almost all dissolved in there. But you can see almost all of the blue is now out of the oil. It's almost back to the regular consistency of the oil before we put the food coloring in. You can see, you can kind of see through it. It's kind of transparent now instead of being blue. So guys, there you have it. That was this week's science experiment, Firework in a Jar. Some alternatives you can do for this: you can add different colors of food coloring. You can mix up one solid color, and then as it goes you can add a couple more colors. You can start with other colors. You can make it whatever color you want. I told you at the beginning of the video, you can use whatever kind of oil you want. I would suggest, if you have a jar this size or a cup maybe similar to this size, let me see if I have, so we have like cups like this. So if you have a cup that's kind of bigger, the biggest cup you have in your house will work. That'll be fine. Just make sure it's see-through so you can see through it. Any of those will work. But yeah, I would suggest not filling it all the way to the top like I did. So maybe only fill it part way to like here, so your oil comes up to there. You could do 3/4 of a cup of water to 1/4 cup of oil. That will cut down on the use, like how much oil you're using. That might be helpful for your household. But I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you on next week's episode of Science from My Kitchen. Stay curious, guys.